It is said that certain moments have the power to transform everything. Not in some grand, explosive manner, but in the subtle, everyday instances that weave themselves in when you least expect it, when your defenses are lowered. In moments when existence seems dull and you find yourself merely drifting along, pondering the possibility that nothing thrilling could ever grace your path again. That's when it quietly slips into the scene, that transformation. The irresistible draw. Little did I realize that a humble invitation in the kitchen would become one of those unforgettable moments. Truly, it all began with a chuckle. A delightful taste of sweetness awaits. There I stood, barefoot, hair pulled back, apron tied on. Just another weary Thursday afternoon unfolding before me. A day that seamlessly merges with the 20 that came before it. Familiar plates, a stillness that lingers, the same reflections staring back. But then he stepped into the room. Once upon a time, there was a character named David. My young companion. He had come home from college, spending a few weeks in the familiar embrace of his childhood home. While his father journeyed for work, there's nothing out of the ordinary, truly. We had always shared a deep bond. There was always a playful exchange, reminiscent of two souls who truly grasped one another amidst a crowd of silence. Yet, on that day, an unusual air lingered in the atmosphere. He leaned against the counter, arms folded, and smiled at me as if I were a captivating tale waiting to be told. As if he were gazing upon me for the very first time, not as the partner of his father, not as the figure who gently nudged him to remember the trash. Yet, as a different being altogether. As I pivoted to present him with a taste, merely a spoonful of the custard I had been crafting, I noticed an unyielding stillness in his gaze. He remained utterly still, his gaze unwavering. There was no laughter, he simply gazed. And then he uttered a remark so light-hearted, so whimsical that I didn't even bat an eye. Only if you share it with me. A smile graced my lips. I let out a sigh of exasperation, dismissed it with a chuckle. As I drew the spoon nearer, he leaned in with anticipation. His lips met the metal, slow and purposeful. His gaze remained firmly fixed on me. And that was the moment of realization. This transcended mere flavor. It was more than merely the custard. It wasn't the moment. It was the moment of stillness, the whisper of life, the manner in which I remained steadfast, not shifting an inch. The way my hand lingers, just a heartbeat longer than it should. I ought to have taken a step back. I ought to have departed. I ought to have spoken up, to have uttered something, anything at all. To ease the strain. Yet I chose not to. For within me, a whisper had longed for the moment when the stillness would finally shatter. The kind that weaves itself through the fabric of time, quietly growing in the shadows, waiting for the moment to be revealed. No, this tale wasn't centered around dessert. Not quite. This was about something far more perilous, a silence that lingers, heavy with meaning. And I promise, the instant his gaze locked with mine, the earth trembled under my feet. A subtle yet powerful movement that caught my attention. The kitchen was enveloped in an unexpected hush. The sound of the clock ticking on the wall resonated with an unsettling intensity, and my heart, it hadn't danced to that rhythm in ages. Have you ever experienced a moment that appears utterly innocent on the surface, yet deep within? A quiet voice stirs, hinting at something more. Indeed, that was a pivotal moment. And if you believe you have figured out the conclusion, let me assure you, you are mistaken. And then, what unfolded next? Each night, I find myself revisiting it in my mind. What if I could turn back time and prevent it all from happening? I'm uncertain if I would. Join us at Heartfelt Tales Unfold to discover the secrets that lie beyond that kitchen door. For this was merely the dawn of a grand tale. At the age of 43, I find myself reflecting on the tapestry of experiences that have woven together to shape who I am today. That's not ancient, I'm aware, yet there's a lingering sense that I vanished into the shadows of time, perhaps a decade past. Not all at once. It unfolded at a leisurely pace, nuanced. It's akin to witnessing the hues slowly diminish from a cherished photograph as the years pass by. My husband, Thomas, is a remarkable man on parchment, dedicated and diligent. Reliable. Unsurprising. Yet, in the tapestry of reality, he exists only as a whisper. Even when he's home, it feels as though he's wandering in another realm. Forever engaged in conversation, perpetually weary, perpetually sidetracked. Forever caught up in the whirlwind, never truly pausing to notice my presence. A man who offers a polite thank you when you serve him dinner, yet remains engrossed in the news, never lifting his gaze. There was a time when our conversations flowed freely. Once our hands would meet. There was a time when he would take my hand simply because it brought him joy. Now we drift into slumber, side by side. Two souls intertwined in a single embrace, divided by vast stretches of quietude. Our meals unfold in silence, our weekends stretch out like a canvas, inviting us to fill them with tales and adventures. Our exchanges seem to lack depth, resembling mere transactions. In the midst of that profound stillness, a thought began to take shape within me. Was I perhaps yearning for too much? Perhaps this was simply the essence of marriage after 2 decades. And so it was that David returned home. He is the son of Thomas from a prior union. Our paths first crossed when he was just a young lad of 10. I played a part in his upbringing, showed him the art of crafting scrambled eggs, prepared his school lunches with care. I kept him company through his battle with the flu. Yet here stands David, the individual who stepped through the front door after a day at college. He had transformed into someone entirely different from the boy I once knew. He had grown taller now. His voice resonated with a deeper timbre, his gaze more piercing, more conscious. Behind his gaze lay a world of untold tales, contemplation, a thirst for knowledge, a subtle assurance that neither sought the spotlight nor failed to draw it in effortlessly. He was merely passing through for a brief spell while the classes took a break. I paid it little mind. Merely another journey to embark upon. Yet, from the very first day, I sensed an intriguing difference. He absorbed every word as I shared my thoughts, not out of courtesy, not the path that many choose to tread. With a gentle nod, my gaze drifts beyond you. Indeed, he truly paid attention. He would inquire about the happenings of my day. Then he would pause, anticipation hanging in the air, waiting for the answer to unfold. He recalled the little details I shared, elements that even Thomas overlooked. He would casually stroll into the kitchen, curious to know what delightful dish I was preparing. He would extend a hand to assist with the burden of groceries. He chuckled at my tales as if they were fresh and uncharted. Initially, I convinced myself it was merely an act of kindness. He was simply a fine young man, showing respect in all he did. Yet, a fragment of my being craved that very kind of attention. When hunger lingers, a mere crumb transforms into a grand banquet. The atmosphere of the house transformed, becoming more buoyant in his presence. I began to anticipate the echo of his footsteps, to the way he'd casually lean against the doorway, a playful glint in his eye as he asked if I needed a taste tester, to the times when it was merely the two of us in the room, weaving tales or chuckling over something whimsical. It was pure, utterly pure, yet, beneath the surface, a deeper tale awaited to be uncovered. There was an unspoken presence lingering in the shadows. Something I hesitated to label yet found impossible to overlook. It was not the words he spoke. He lingered in the moment as I spoke, drawing out each word like a thread in a tapestry. The way he observed me when I believed he was oblivious. The moment our eyes met from across the room, a rush of emotions surged within me. It was understated, soft and soothing. Hardly anything, really, yet after years of fading into the background, nearly everything felt like it was nothing at all. Once upon a time, in the midst of a bustling week, there came a Tuesday. As the sun began its descent, the late afternoon unfolded. The tranquil hour, where sunlight begins to spill its golden warmth across the kitchen tiles, creating a serene moment suspended in time. Thomas was off on his usual adventures, lost in the world of meetings. With the soft melodies weaving through the air, I found myself immersed in the moment, my sleeves rolled up and ready for whatever came next. Embarking on a culinary adventure with a custard recipe that has long awaited its moment in the spotlight. There was a certain satisfaction in immersing oneself in a singular pursuit. As I hummed to the melody, a sudden creak of the door caught my attention. Once upon a time, there was a character named David. He entered silently, leaning against the frame, his gaze fixed upon me. Observing in quiet contemplation, his expression held a gentle warmth, serene. Intrigued, I stood my ground. With a playful glance over my shoulder, I remarked, "You always find your way in here when the scent of sugar fills the air." He chuckled heartily. "You have a way of drawing me in, making it difficult to resist your pull." I cast a glance back at him then. He donned a simple white t-shirt. His hair was a bit tousled, as if he had just rolled out of bed. Yet his gaze remained fixed on me, unwavering and inscrutable. I extended the spoon. "Come now, indulge in its flavor, share your thoughts on its sweetness." He remained in his place, arms crossed over his chest. A gentle smile crept at the edge of his lips. "Only if you serve it to me with the finesse of a true culinary artist." I paused for a moment, only a moment. And so, I found myself laughing. "Handled it smoothly. So it seems I've taken on the role of your personal baker as well, have I?" He remained silent. He simply strolled over, calm and unhurried, until he found himself directly before me. I raised the spoon once more, cradling it between us. He bent low, seized it. Not in a hurry, not without thought, consider with intention. Leisurely, his lips caressed the cold metal. He shut his eyes, if only for a fleeting moment, as though devouring something far richer than mere custard. Then he unveiled them, gazing upon me still, currently devoid of a smile. Simply maintaining my stare, I chuckled once more, a bit too boisterously and hurriedly, then turned aside to wash the spoon. Yet my hands trembled with uncertainty. and the kitchen lost its familiar warmth, I reassured myself that it was merely a trivial matter, a whimsical moment, a tale of humor. Yet throughout the day, my mind lingered on it, weaving thoughts and reflections like threads in a tapestry. The manner in which his eyes failed to advance. He stood there perfectly still, as if he were poised for me to recognize a truth that lingered in the air, unspoken and heavy. A truth neither of us dared to confront. That gaze. It did not come from a boy, and I believe I found that quite enjoyable. I ought not to have. The moment he departed, a curious sensation danced across my skin, a whisper of awareness I couldn't ignore. I found myself lingering in the hallway, yearning for the moment he would return. Yet, I did. And the most challenging aspect, I felt no shame. Not at this moment. In that moment, I was filled with a vibrant sense of existence, as if a long-awaited spark had ignited within me, illuminating the shadows that had cloaked my existence for so long. Following that day in the kitchen, I began to perceive details I had previously overlooked. David's laughter danced through the room, gently easing the weight of silence that once lingered so heavily in the house. He hung around in the doorways after our conversations wrapped up, as if he was reluctant to part ways just yet. His gaze swept through the crowd, seeking me out as if I were a cherished memory in a sea of strangers, hinting at a deeper connection waiting to be uncovered, and I loathed the depth of my awareness. It was a strange twist of fate that brought me a sense of joy I never expected to feel. I would advise myself to pause, to maintain my space, yet he would stroll in with that familiar, effortless grin and a simple inquiry about my day, and suddenly, everything within me would transform. In a fleeting instant, just a heartbeat. Our hands grazed each other as we tittied the table. He expressed his regrets. I declared it was perfectly acceptable, yet my skin buzzed with sensation for minutes afterward. As the evening drew to a close, he wrapped his arms around me for a tender goodnight embrace. Just as he once did, yet it remained a breath longer. Just enough for me to sense his warmth and recall the essence of what warmth truly felt like. And that was the moment when the voice in my head began to rise in volume. I am the one who stepped into his life as a guiding presence. I played a part in his upbringing. From the time he was just a young lad of 10, our paths intertwined, and I have known him ever since. Yet, in the stillness, the softer voice responded with a gentle whisper. He has transcended the days of boyhood, and I still have life within me. That part was painful to confess, yet it was indeed true, for in the quiet moments, amidst the forgotten birthdays and the brief exchanges with Thomas, a part of me began to dim. Once upon a time, on a birthday 2 years past, I found myself waiting throughout the day for a call, a note, or even a simple text. Silence reigns. On that night, I prepared a meal. I lit a candle for myself. He strolled in, inquired about the evening's meal, and then flicked on the television. I completely overlooked the cake. There was no inquiry into the weariness that clung to me. In the stillness of the night, I found myself weeping beneath the cascade of water in the shower, not due to forgetfulness. Yet, I found myself utterly unfazed. Since then, I've been traversing the world as if I were a mere whisper in the night. Compelling. Once upon a time, there was a moment of expression, whipping up culinary delights, living in the moment. Yet, the essence of emotion had transformed into a mere echo of the past. Once, I engaged in an activity that was part of my past, until David cast his gaze upon me in that manner. What comes next? As he stepped into the room, a curious sensation danced within me, leaving me uncertain of how to respond to the fluttering in my chest, or the moment I discovered I was changing shirts twice before dinner, or how frequently I found myself pondering the thoughts that danced through his mind as he gazed upon me. Was it an act of compassion? Was it a spark of wonder? Was I conjuring it all in my mind? I observed him intently. In search of answers in the way he smiled at me. He inquired if I required assistance with the groceries, how he stayed in the kitchen, drawn to its warmth, even when his presence wasn't required. Yet, I found myself unable to express it. Perhaps I was better off in ignorance. What if I were the sole soul experiencing this? What if I transformed my yearning for love into a captivating mirage? Yet, what if I were not? What if the quiet space between us held a world of unspoken words? Yet, there lingers a weighty silence, heavy with unexpressed thoughts. Something is on the horizon, patiently awaiting its moment to unfold. The weight of remorse would settle in gentle undulations. It would strike me in the stillness of the night. Reclining in the stillness of the night, I found myself next to a man whose hands had not brushed against my skin. In what felt like an eternity, I would gaze at the ceiling, pondering the transformation of my very being. What sort of woman allows these thoughts to take hold? Yet, with the dawn, a new day would unfold, and David would saunter into the kitchen, his eyes heavy with sleep and a gentle smile gracing his lips, and inquire whether I had a restful night. and I would let slip away every vow I whispered to myself under the stars the night before. In those fleeting moments, those fleeting, cherished instances, I felt disconnected from the role of a wife or a nurturing presence, or someone who has seen better days. A surge of vitality coursed through me, and I found myself pondering whether gratitude was the right response to that or filled with dread. In the heart of our home, the kitchen emerged as our sanctuary. It had always been, in a way, yet. In that moment, it seemed as though they were bound by an unspoken bond, a realm delicately poised between the boundaries of permission and the depths of emotion. Amidst the familiar patterns and the allure of the unknown, David began to lend a hand more often. Not merely observing, yet, journeying alongside me, he would slice as I mixed. He would position himself just behind me, stretching out his hand to gather the ingredients, gliding by me with an easy intimacy that hung in the air. Just long enough to sweep me away from my thoughts, we prepared our meal, with the ease and confidence of seasoned chefs, as if it were second nature to us. It felt as though we were in sync with one another's beats. He began to weave in fresh recipes, sharing with me some links, crafting a tapestry of thoughts he believed would resonate with me. He expressed that it brought him a sense of tranquility, being present alongside me. I shared with him how it made me feel acknowledged. That last bit slipped out before I could catch it. Yet I did. He remained silent. He kept the focus right where it was. He gazed at me, his eyes holding a mystery that was impossible to decipher. And so, I replied, me too. That night lingered in my mind. So did the gentle touch of his hand as it brushed against mine when we extended a hand for the same spoon. Or how he began to linger in the kitchen long after the meal was prepared, keeping it brief, simply existing in proximity. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Thomas had vanished once more, a gathering in a distant city, unfolding under the cloak of night. David and I shared a quiet dinner together. We shared a modest amount of wine. Just a whisper to ease the tension that lingers between us. The meal was delightful. The laughter flowed effortlessly. Once we finished our meal, I unveiled something fresh and exciting. A delicate, velvety treat that had captured my attention for days on end. He lifted an eyebrow, a silent question hanging in the air. You're indulging me? A smile graced my lips. Why not to? He inclined his head slightly. He observed me intently, as if piecing together a puzzle. Then he remarked, you savor every creation you craft. Do you not? I nodded slowly, taking in the moment. In most cases. With a gentle motion, he lowered the spoon into the depths. Raised it high. Yet, rather than savouring it, he drew nearer and drew the spoon closer to me. Now, savor this. I paused, caught in a moment of uncertainty. Yet, it wouldn't last for long. I leaned in closer. The spoon met my lips. His fingers hovered nearby. So near, gently grazing my own as I accepted it. The flavor danced on the palate, a delightful sweetness that lingered like a cherished memory. Yet, what remained wasn't the sweet treat. It was the moment. The hush that ensued, the stillness lingered, a suspended moment that neither of us dared to break. His hand lingered for a moment before it finally fell. Mine remained still as well. Our gazes intertwined, and a connection flickered between us. It was a whisper, barely breaking the silence. It remained unuttered. Yet, it was indeed true. He remained steadfast. Nor did I. We lingered in anticipation, not for a kiss. Keep your hands off, yet for an individual to articulate the unfolding events. To label it as incorrect. To unravel the enchantment, yet no one took action. In that quiet moment, a revelation dawned upon me. Whichever path we believed we were treading, it had already vanished beneath us. 3 nights passed. And then it occurred. In the stillness of the house, silence reigned supreme. Thomas had ventured out once more, this time for a late dinner with clients I had ceased to count. Curled up on the far side of the couch, I found comfort in the embrace of a blanket wrapped around my legs, while a half-empty glass of wine rested on the table beside me. The television flickered with life, yet my gaze wandered elsewhere, lost in thoughts untold, allowing the gentle glow to draw my attention away from the unspoken pain within. David entered the room, silence enveloping him like a cloak. He never sought to accompany me. He simply took a seat, nearer than ever before. Not engaging. Yet, near enough to sense the warmth that lingered between us. We lingered in that moment, suspended in time. Suddenly, in a gentle whisper, he remarked, you seem a bit down this evening. I chose to remain silent. Not just yet. In that moment, the words slipped from my lips before I had the chance to ponder their weight. It feels as though I have become invisible to those around me. Silence enveloped him. And so, I pressed on. Well, I engage in every endeavor, I arrive. I tidy up. In the kitchen, I weave together flavors and aromas. I wear a smile when the moment calls for it. Yet, there are days when I sense that I could vanish and it would go unnoticed by anyone. He glanced my way. I had observed. It was never about the words alone. It was the manner in which he spoke them, low, steady, and assured. It felt as though he had no intention of easing my discomfort. It was as if he truly intended it. "I see you," he whispered once more, his voice a gentle caress, greater than what anyone has ever experienced. I cast my gaze upon him, truly observed. His eyes had lost their spark of curiosity. They were absolutely convinced. In that instant, the atmosphere shifted. My breath was momentarily suspended. Not due to any astonishment, yet a fragment of my being had been in anticipation. We lingered for a moment, hesitant to take the next step. We simply gazed. Two souls stood on either side of a line. A boundary we both understood was not meant to be crossed, yet we had already ventured beyond it. In every sense that truly mattered, I ought to have taken a stand. Perhaps a jest would have lightened the moment, altered the topic, crafted separation. Yet, I chose not to. Instead, I leaned in, just barely. With great care. It felt as though my body was dancing to a rhythm that my mind had yet to grasp. And he let me continue on my path. His lips gently met mine, gentle in the beginning, filled with hesitation. It felt as if he was offering me an opportunity to step back. Yet, I chose not to. In that fleeting, cherished instant, I felt a spark of existence. No longer shrouded in the shadows, I felt remembered. I felt a deep sense of belonging, awake, authentic. And then it grew richer, merely a touch. Inhale deeply, feeling the warmth envelop you. Shaking and flawed in every conceivable manner, and yet, I pressed on. The kiss was fleeting. Yet, what it left behind lingered on. As we finally separated, the world surged back in like a powerful tide. I sprang to my feet with urgency. Remained silent. He uttered my name softly, with a hint of curiosity, as if he were treading carefully on fragile ground. Yet, my gaze remained averted from him. As I stepped out of the room, a sense of transition enveloped me, through the corridor, into the shadows. I gently closed the door behind me. And leaned against it, trembling. My heart raced with anticipation. My lips still tingled, a lingering sensation that whispered of moments past. My entire being felt as if it had slipped away, no longer tethered to my essence. A wave of illness washed over me. Awake, filled with trepidation. Seeking. Grimy. In a single moment, and worst of all, I found myself in a haze of uncertainty. Unsure if regret was the shadow lurking behind my choices, or if I had been anticipating it all along. The following morning, he steered clear of me. As soon as I crossed the threshold into the kitchen, I sensed it. He stood there, pouring cereal, gazing into the bowl as if it contained the secrets of the universe. He remained focused on his task, not glancing up as I entered the room. A serene morning unfolded, untouched by the gaze of another. I gave a knowing nod. Attempted to align with his cadence. I feigned ignorance to the way his shoulders tensed as I reached past him for a mug. The stillness that enveloped us was palpable. With remarkable speed, he polished off his meal, swiftly rinsed his bowl, and made his exit. Silence reigns. There shall be no light-hearted exchanges. No light touches. Simply vanished. As the sun began to dip below the horizon, Thomas made his way back home. With a suitcase in one hand and a Bluetooth device still nestled in his ear, he ventured forth. Engaging in a conversation about numbers, I ceased feigning interest long ago. He pressed his lips to my cheek, a gesture as routine as a worker clocking in for the day. I was unaware of the tension woven into my grin. There was no inquiry into my well-being. He strolled by David on the stairs, offering little more than a fleeting greeting. Life flows on as it always has. I endeavored to maintain a sense of normalcy. I truly did, yet I found myself adrift, letting go of things. The tale of a misplaced phone, inquiring about the same matter once more at the dinner table. My body occupied the space, yet my thoughts spiraled back, replaying fragments of the previous night that eluded my grasp. And David, he averted his gaze, as if I were a mere shadow in his world. At one point, he strolled into the living room where as I meticulously folded the laundry, each piece of fabric seemed to whisper tales of the day gone by. I sensed his presence looming just behind me, merely lingering in that moment. It was as if he had words dancing on the tip of his tongue, eager to be spoken. I chose not to look back. I was unable to. At last, he spoke. "Can we have a conversation?" And I declared, "There's nothing left to discuss." He took a moment to gather his thoughts, and so they turned and departed. The words lingered in the air, resonating through the room long after he had departed. It was as if the words belonged to another, echoing from a distant voice, a figure more frigid, more resilient. Yet, I found myself lacking in strength. Fear gripped me. Not long after, a celebration unfolded for Thomas's niece as she marked another year of life with a birthday party. The sort of family gathering that once filled me with anticipation. I adorned myself with my finest expression, slipped into a dress that had been untouched for months, adorned my lips with color. My hair was curled. I promised myself to wear a smile throughout the journey. When we arrived, David was already there, waiting for us. He was sharing a hearty laugh with a companion, a girl of his age. Golden locks. Beautiful. Assured. The way her fingers brushed against his arm during her playful jest sent a curious flutter through my chest. I observed them from a distance. Across the garden. Observed the manner in which he beamed at her. The manner in which he leaned in. He appeared to embody a sense of freedom. And I loathed myself for the depth of the pain I felt. I spun around too quickly and almost sent a tray of drinks tumbling to the floor. I reassured myself that I was being absurd. At the age of 19, he stood on the brink of adulthood. She possessed a captivating beauty. It all came together beautifully, yet, deep within me, a fissure began to form. Did it hold any significance for him? Was I merely a fleeting thought he wished he could take back? Once upon a time, in a realm of wonder and magic, there existed a figure of intrigue and adventure. Succumbed for the occasion beckoned with such simplicity, for when my gaze fell upon him, truly fell, I lost the ability to share. He let it fade into silence, never to be spoken of again. Not through words. Not with fleeting looks. It felt as though it had slipped away into the shadows. Never to be seen again, but it did. And I was the sole keeper of it, a secret etched deep within me. As if it were inscribed upon my very skin, I began to ponder whether it ever crossed his mind. If he told it like I did, it would sometimes steal his sleep away on certain nights. Or if he had already embarked on a new journey, and if he had, what did that mean? What can you share about me? That was merely a fleeting instant. Merely an error. Only. Silence reigns, a void of words and thoughts where nothing stirs or breathes. On a Sunday night, it all unfolded. In the stillness of the house, silence reigned supreme, not a serene hush. Simply void. Empty. Once upon a time, Thomas decided to retire for the night earlier than usual. David wandered into the unknown, and I chose not to inquire about the destination. In the quiet solitude of the kitchen, I found myself seated, lost in thought, identical seat. Another cup of tea, the familiar hum of the fridge lingers in the background, yet there was an unmistakable shift in the air, and I shattered. Not with a booming voice, not in a dramatic fashion. Simply. Softly. It was my hands that began to tremble first. Then my chest swelled as if it could no longer bear the burden. And then, like a sudden storm, the tears fell unbidden, not from my gaze, from a place beyond the surface. It felt as though a part of me had surrendered, no longer willing to maintain the facade. With my hands shielding my face, tears streamed down as I wept. For what I have done. For what I desired. For what I was destined to become. As I reflected on that night, memories danced in my mind. The tender embrace of lips meeting, the quiet that follows, the quiet that enveloped us both. As I reflected on the sound of David's voice, those captivating eyes, the manner in which he has averted his gaze from me ever since. And in that moment, I found myself a stranger in my own skin. I am a partner in life. A woman who takes on the role of a mother, often with complexities and challenges. I played a part in nurturing that boy, and yet, there remains. I allowed something to traverse a boundary I had vowed never to approach. What sort of woman would do that? What sort of maternal figure yearns for the attention of someone she was meant to safeguard? Yet, one must ponder. What sort of man abandons his wife to hunger? What type of union leaves you feeling like a specter in your own dwelling? A flicker of doubt crept into my mind, making me question whether the entire experience had been a figment of my imagination. In my yearning to grasp a flicker of emotion, I found myself interpreting kindness in ways it was never meant to be, weaving it into a narrative of my own making. Perhaps David was simply showing his kind-hearted nature. Perhaps the gaze he held was merely a reflection of something known, warmth and solace, not yearning. Perhaps I conjured it all from the depths of my imagination, but alas, no. Absolutely not. In that moment, something lingered in the air. I am aware of it. One does not gaze into another's eyes with such intensity over a simple spoonful of custard and dismiss it as inconsequential. One does not merely graze their fingers, come closer, a gentle meeting of lips, and then simply imagine it was the wind. Yet, it lingers in my mind, a shadow of uncertainty about what it truly signified for him, for it held a significance beyond words. Now, I find myself at a crossroads, uncertain of the path ahead. I've considered sharing this with Thomas, simply weaving a playful exchange, allowing everything to fall apart and ultimately inhaling the remnants of what once was. Yet, I find myself unable to do so. It would shatter him. It would shatter David. And perhaps most devastating of all, it would shatter my very being. It's more than merely my likeness. Yet, the small, shimmering fragment of me that experienced the thrill of life once more after so many years. Even if it was misguided. Even if it may never come to pass again. There have been moments when the idea of departure has crossed my mind, gathering items into a bag, vanishing for a brief spell, seeking a moment to reflect, free from their gaze, yet I find myself pondering. What if I'm the only one who still lingers on it? What if he has turned the page? What if, to him, it was merely a fleeting moment, a simple mistake, and nothing beyond that? What if I'm the sole burdened by it, the solitary figure, endlessly replaying in her mind that night? Like a film reel stuck on a loop, that notion pierces deeper than any other pain. For it would signify, I was never even a memory worth holding onto. Once upon a time an event unfolded. Merely a fleeting moment, perhaps that is the fate I have earned. Have you ever ventured beyond the boundaries? And then pondered whether the line had ever truly existed, or perhaps something even more dire? What if you had the desire to traverse it all along? I remain uncertain about what to name it. Could it be considered emotional infidelity? Could it be seen as treachery? Or was it something more subtle? Is there something more solitary? Was it merely a woman yearning to be acknowledged, moved, selected? It all unfolded unexpectedly. Yet, it came to pass. And now I find myself with this ache, not merely from my actions, but from the uncertainty of what it truly signifies. Thus, I pose this question to you. Kindly share your thoughts with me in the comments. Did I err, or was I merely a creature of flesh and blood? Have you ever experienced something that seemed utterly inexplicable, but it seemed like the sole thread tethering you to existence? For the sake of understanding, I seek reassurance that I am not alone in experiencing these feelings. I seek the reassurance that I share this journey with others. Should this tale resonate with you in any manner, stirring emotions you've yet to voice, then please like this video, subscribe, and activate the bell. Here on Heartfelt Tales Unfold, we delve into the depths of the human heart, revealing one truth at a time, and some truths wear a cloak of shadows, yet they exist. Kindle closing reflection warning or lesson 58 to 31 1 hour, narrator's voice only. At times, the yearning we feel transcends mere sustenance. It exists to capture the gaze. It's for experiencing the moment when someone looks into your eyes and acknowledges your presence. Not out of obligation. Not out of obligation. Yet, from something genuine. At times, there are stretches where emotions seem to fade into the background. When someone finally stirs that part of you awake, you forget to inquire if it's safe. One simply experiences, yet the price of a single savor could be the lingering pain that endures endlessly. Whether David recalls that moment as vividly as I do remains a mystery to me. If it echoed in his mind the way it echoes in mine, yet I bear it with me. Like a hidden mark, forever concealed. Like a hidden tale I'll share with the shadows, yet it resides just beneath my skin, and perhaps, just perhaps, some tales are destined to linger without a conclusion. Only the rightful outcomes. Only the hush of stillness, only secrets shared softly in the shadows.